Welcome in, everyone, to the Bend, Oregon Real Estate Podcast. I am your host, Rob Eggers, Principal Broker here at Duke Warner Realty. Over 24 years of sales in real estate here in Bend. And I am with my business partner today, Katrina Swisher, also 24 years experience selling real estate here in Bend. And today we are going to be looking at really the 2026 spring market, kind of evaluating that. We are a couple months into the spring market right now. And we're also going to be talking about some of our predictions for the summer market. So, Katrina, I'll ask you to start us off here. Right now, we just have the numbers that came in from the Beacon Report for the month of April. And so we've got March and April under our belt right now. I kind of see the spring market as March, April, May. Mm-hmm. So being that we're kind of 2 months into the spring market, how do you feel the real estate market is going right now?
So far, I think it's going really well for the spring. We've bounced back a little bit from the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Our sales are up for the first time, or the highest they've been for the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we're getting back into it.
Yeah.
The spring is springing. Yeah.
So you feel optimistic, you would say?
For sure.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. How would you say it's felt versus like the last couple years? I know we've had really high interest rates. Our interest rates are still not great. Right now, our interest rates are hovering right around 6.5. But in other springs, we've had mid-7s, mm-hmm. close to 8. Do you think that's played a role at all, or what do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, yeah, they're hovering around 6.5. They've been bouncing up and down this year so far from 6 to 6.25. Go up a little bit, down a little bit, but I think overall they are still lower than they've been in the last 3 years. And I think people are adapting to that. It's kind of becoming the new norm. They aren't on the constant rise where, we've stayed below 7 for quite some time. Mm-hmm. So I think people are just kind of getting used to this might be the way it is. And historically, they are decent rates.
Yeah.
So I think people are comfortable in that 6% range at this point.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like, when we had rates close to 8 in the 7s, it was just a tough time. Mm-hmm. I do feel like people have adjusted a bit. They were down to, for just like a hot minute, they got into the 5s earlier this year, but now they've bounced back up into, they were at like 6.2, 6.3 for a while, but just checking today, they're at almost 6.5. So rates aren't great. However, I did some kind of deep diving into the numbers, just looking back at year-to-date sales. And so what I did was I looked at year-to-date sales basically in Bend, up to 1 acre on residential properties, selling from January 1st to April 30th. And this year we had 520 sales that happened this year. That's actually the first time we've broken into the 500 range since 2022. Mm-hmm. So last year, year-to-date sales through April, we had 491. Then in 24, we had 487. Then in 23, we had 459. Then you go back into the COVID years, which are 20, 21, and 22. We had in the 600s, almost 700. So we're not, and even actually, if you go back prior to COVID, we were in the upper, mid to upper 6s for sales. So at 520 through the end of April is historically still kind of low, but better than the last 3 or 4 years for sure.
Yes, for sure. So, I mean, overall, it seems busy. It's active. Listings are selling, and it appears we're pulling out of the pause and the lull that we've been in for the last 3 years.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of broken through, like you said. I feel like people are adjusting to the interest rates. Are like, okay, this is just what they're going to be. In fact, they actually kind of look better right now than what they've looked like. So people look at 6.5. They've been staring at 7 for the last couple of years. So that is better for sure. All right, so let's jump back to the stats a little bit here. I want to look at the Beacon Report, the months of supply. So if we look at the months of supply, it's been kind of high and low. Like May and June of last year, we had 5 months of inventory.
Mm-hmm.
That was the spring market. 5 months. We haven't seen 5 months of inventory in, I don't even know how many years.
Yeah.
It would, yeah.
We'd have to go back a ways.
A long ways. So then it's been dropping pretty consistently. So once we got to January of this year, 2.5 months of inventory. Now for March and April, we're at 3 months of inventory. That's a pretty even balance over the last several years.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of the inventory levels?
Well, I mean, I think it's showing us that we are pretty much absorbing the listings that are coming on the market right now. Because our inventory is staying pretty steady. It's gone down because last year, I mean, we know the market was just pretty flat. And so typical spring, a lot of new listings are coming on the market, but last year they just weren't selling.
Mm-hmm.
And they sat on the market a lot longer than usual. And so the inventory continued to grow and grow and grow. And now inventory at 3 months, I mean, that's a pretty low number.
Yeah. It's certainly not high. And we've had, our inventory has been all over the map. During COVID, you could measure it in days because it was so low. But then, like I just said, last spring, we got to 5 months of inventory. So we're at 3 right now. That's pretty average, I would say, over the last 10 years, actually.
For us, yes.
Yeah.
And in general, that's a very healthy
Mm-hmm.
and very strong number, actually.
Yeah.
It's when we creep into the above 4 or 5 that we start feeling like, okay, there's a lot of houses on the market. Things are not moving as quickly.
Yeah.
And I think buyers start to see, oh, I have a lot more choices to choose from. But 3 months starts to make things a bit more competitive again.
Yeah, I like your word healthy there because, like you said, if there's 5 months of inventory, everyone's feeling like, okay, no one's selling. This is just things are sticking around too long. And then if you're lower than 3, buyers begin to feel like there's no choices here.
Right.
And then if you really get lower than like 2, then it becomes like, okay, there's really no choices and things are too competitive. Buyers have to start throwing out all the concessions,
Mm-hmm.
like to get properties under contract, like home inspection, stuff like that. So this is more of a balanced
Yeah,
number,
I think so.
I think.
And I feel like we've still been in a very balanced seller-buyer market.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not swinging too much in favor of one or the other.
Yeah.
Buyers still can have some negotiations in some cases, they're the multiple offer situations. If they come across one, it's going to become more competitive, but it's really not leaning really in the favor of one or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So another interesting thing looking at the Beacon report is the days on market for properties that have sold. This is wild because if you look at, say, the fall and winter months, so going back to October of 25, so just last fall, 66 days on the market. Then November, 56 days on the market. Then December, 53 days. Then January of this year, 66 days. February, 62. Then in March, it went from 62 down to 18 days on the market. And then in April, 13 days on the market. So a huge drop in the days on the market. And I think the key here is for sold properties.
Right.
So you could speak to that for a second.
Right. Yeah, we're not looking at, there's obviously still some homes that are sitting on the market. The ones we've talked about, they're priced too high. They're still trying to catch up and find that buyer. We don't know what their final days on the market will be once they sell. But right now, we can look at that number is based on the homes that are selling. And those homes right now, if they're coming on the market in March, April, now May, they are selling quickly.
Yeah, so you're looking at the sold properties, the ones that have actually closed. These things are selling. They are. It shows in the numbers. 18 days on market in March and only 13 in April. So I feel like if you are at this point on the market for 30 days or more, you probably have a price problem. Wouldn't you agree?
100%.
Yeah.
That's really the only factor we have control over.
Mm-hmm.
We have some control over presentation of the property, which
Yeah.
is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just throw it on the market. You have
Yeah.
to you have to try and present it the best you can.
The shiny nickel.
Exactly. At the end of the day, the price is the only, we can't control what buyers are doing. We can't control what's going on in the market nationally. We can't control the economy. What can we do to sell this property?
Yeah.
And it comes down to price.
Mm-hmm.
And, if these new listings are coming on and they're priced right, they're selling in 18 days.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's got to be frustrating if you're a seller, you've been on the market since February and you're still listed, and see all these new listings come on and bam, they're sold. But that's the time to look in the mirror and be like, okay, why am I not standing out? What am I doing? Because as a seller, you have to remember that, yes, maybe you don't want to do price reductions, but if it weren't for price reductions, we wouldn't have sold anything in 2008, 9, and 10.
Right.
Because that's all pricing did was come down at that point. So do a price reduction, bite the bullet, get down to where you need to be. There's a threshold in every market where things will sell. I know for myself, I've been selling some of my personal items on Facebook Marketplace. And a lot of times I have no idea what to price things. I just sold actually for a client. A client left a Yakima bike rack behind and she said, I don't know what to do with this. I don't use it anymore. Just get rid of it for me. I'm like, okay. So I sold it. And I had no idea what to price this thing at. Well, I started at $100. Actually, that's not true. I started at $150. Then it went down to $125. Then it went down to $100. Then it went down to $75. Once I got to $50, I had 2 people that wanted to buy it. So that's a microcosm of the real estate market.
Right.
There's a threshold of every market where something will sell in. And it's the same with houses. And if you're sitting there and it's been, heaven forbid, 6 months on the market, that's real bad. But like if you've been 3 months on the market, you need to start doing your price reductions.
Definitely.
Because if you're not going to get it sold now, this is May. Are you going to sell it in October? Probably not. So now's the time to bite the bullet, get the pricing down, because you will reach a threshold. Well, all of a sudden, now we're getting offers on this property.
And I think we're seeing a bit of that correction. I guess I would use the word correction this spring, where these homes that are selling really fast are finally at that right price point, and it's showing and it's working. But it has taken us these last 3 years of correcting the mindset of the seller and even the buyer of where the market is now from what it was during COVID. And there has been a big transition of that. And it's not, these price reductions, it's not that the market's getting worse or the prices are coming down. They're just not this inflated price that they were.
Yeah.
So we have to find what that is now. And the sellers and the homes that are still coming on, and it's obviously still priced like it would have been in 21 or 22, it's not going to work.
No.
Our market's not there.
Right.
So yes, you're going to see price reductions because of that. You're not seeing price reductions on things that are coming out of the chute at the right price.
No, yeah. There's no need because they're gone. If they're coming out at the right price and they're getting offers right away, they're gone. So, yeah, I feel like it's just one of those things. You have to listen to the market. What does the market tell you? If you've been on the market for 30 days, the market's telling you no.
Yep.
And you also have to look at the number of showings. Like if you've had 10 showings but no offers, that really speaks to something. Well, we're looking good online, but once people look in person, they're not falling in love. So you need to change something about your presentation or maybe change your pricing so once they do get there, it's more in line with what they're seeing versus the quality.
Exactly. And yeah, you don't need to necessarily wait 30 days to find that out. If you've had 10 showings the first week and nobody is jumping in,
you probably have your answer.
Yes,
yeah,
for
10
sure.
showings is ironically, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually a pretty large sample size.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And if somebody out of those 10 doesn't want your home, then yeah, you have to take a hard look at what it is that you can do. You know, we get that feedback, but typically that is going to come down to the price.
Just switching gears, thinking about the summer months to come. What do you feel will happen as we move forward going into the summer months?
You know, I mean, I feel like we are still gaining momentum so far. Like you said, spring is not over yet. We still have May to get through and see where May's sales are at. We're seeing some heat in some parts of the market, and other parts of the market are, questionable or maybe a little slower. It's a little bit mixed, but I feel like we're still gaining momentum. There's still a lot of buyers out there, waiting for either the right inventory to come on or possibly rates to, get a little bit better. Mm-hmm. But, and I think same with sellers, they're still watching. So personally, I feel like we're still gaining momentum, and I feel like we will continue with that momentum through the summer and even into the fall. Where we just aren't as quick to get on it as in the past. Like you said, COVID years and pre-COVID years, we were used to spring just being this complete boom.
Yeah.
And so much of the sales from the year happened all right then. It was like this hurry and this urgency, both buyers and sellers, to get in the market at that time.
Yeah.
And it's just a little slower paced these days.
Yeah.
It's steady, which is good. There's nothing wrong with steady. It's just not quite as like much of a boom. And that urgency has subsided, I think, in both for buyers and sellers. But that's okay. Let's just move through this seasons, at a steady pace.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the summer is going to be steady. But we typically do see most of our sales happen in March, April, May. So June is always kind of an off month, in my opinion. You have, end of school activities, graduations. As soon as kids are out, people are hitting the lakes. And then, of course, every relative or friend you've possibly know wants to come visit you in Bend, Oregon. So people get like sidelined by company and activities and stuff like that. So I feel like June is kind of an off month, and then you go into July, August. So I kind of feel like it will maybe slow down a little bit those months, just because it historically does. But I feel like it's going to be better overall than what we've had the last 2 or 3 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, just because, like you said, the rates are a little bit better. We seem to be on a better trajectory right now. One other thing I wanted to talk about is it feels at times like this market is a bit giving us mixed messages. Mm-hmm. I know you've been in some multiple offer situations this year. I have not. Usually if we're one or the other is being in multiple offer situations, we both are.
Right.
Like I've had just very normal real estate transactions, like normal negotiations. Property's been sitting on the market for a while. You've got involved where like, oh, new listing comes on or whatever, and all of a sudden, boom, there's 4 listings you have to deal with. Speak to for a second about this mixed message of why some maybe are sitting and some are selling right away.
I mean, I think ultimately it's price driven, and, buyers have been waiting for the last few years to decide if they're going to get in the market or not. And I think, a lot of buyers are, okay, they're done waiting. Maybe market conditions aren't ideal, but they're just kind of ready to make a move. But they are still taking their time to find that right listing. Mm-hmm. And when it comes on, it seems apparent. Whatever that might be in any price range, if it checks all the boxes, there's buyers waiting for it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it really comes down to that right price, that right presentation. I've had 2 situations so far this year that I've been in multiple offers. One, I was on the listing side. One, I was on the buyer side.
Okay.
And both those just had a pop to them for one reason or another.
Yeah.
And the one I listed, my sellers really had talked about coming in at a higher price. And I just felt like we weren't able to do that. And I, really talked about that with them and explained my pricing strategy and how that works in this market. And it worked for us. We ended up with 4 offers in less than a week. We had a cash offer, a quick close, and my sellers were very relieved.
Nice.
And it proved to us that we got the best offer the market would bear.
Yeah.
And I think they could understand that at that point. And at closing, they just mentioned like how appreciative they were for my strategy going into that and not pushing the price to a point that they
pushing the price for a higher price?
For a higher price,
right.
listings, to start the listing out
yes.
higher where they wanted to be initially. But realizing then that we probably would have sat on the market.
Mm-hmm.
We would have, the stress that would have caused them to sit on the market, to have all these showings and not have anybody interested.
That's so hard.
And that could go on for months. I mean, they just, by the time we got to closing, they were like, you really led us and were a good guide for where we needed to be, and it worked. On the other end, on the buyer situation I was on, I think it was the same thing. This listing was just very apparent that it was priced well, it was presented well, and my buyers, who have been waiting for quite some time, could recognize that.
Yeah, it
and
stood out to them.
They weren't the only ones who recognized that, and there were multiple offers in the first couple of days.
Yeah.
And so I think at the end of the day, whether you're on the listing side, the seller side, or the buyer side, Fred in our office said it maybe last year during this market when, it's just pretty competitive in the way of, making your listing stand out to get the buyers in the door. You have to be the shiniest nickel in the drawer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You have to stand out. You have to check every box because
Yes.
buyers will continue to wait. If you're not going to check every box, if you're not going to stand out to them, they'll move on to the next one.
I think that's a key point. I think if you are a seller right now, so many sellers, they will say, well, what are the comps? And then they want to be right where the comps are, or they want to be right in the mix of everything. But if you're a seller right now, I think you really have to ask yourself, are we the standout property?
Mm-hmm.
Is our property the one that's all of a sudden, boom, made the big splash, or is making the big splash? Or is it the clear winner? Because if it's not, you're probably just going to blend in with everyone else, and you'll probably get, some showings and whatnot, but buyers will be hesitant. Because that's really what we're seeing in this market is like we're seeing some listings sit for a long time and they'll just not sell. And then others, like in your experience a couple times, they'll sell right away. But I think those properties were the standouts.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And you, like you said, you have to be, or you just get looked over. Mm-hmm. And people, the buyers, they know the market. They really do. They've been sitting, they've been waiting, they've been watching. They're very, very concerned about pricing, and if pricing is too high, and they won't jump in if it seems off, or if it's not presented well. If it's, if it needs work and they're not necessarily looking for a fixer, then that's not going to appeal to them.
Yeah.
So it really, like, all the little details matter. Mm-hmm. But most importantly, pricing it right matters. Mm-hmm. And we're just not in a market to push it and say, well, let's just give this a try and test the market and see what happens. You really will shoot yourself in the foot. We're just not in that kind of market. There's not enough urgency from buyers in the market to do that. And those are the listings we're watching and seeing them sit, and the prices come down and they reduce and reduce and reduce until they finally can get attention again.
All right, so I think that's a great recap on a few of those items. And if you are out there considering putting your home on the market, don't wait. Now is the time. We are into May. And really, like we said, the spring market is March, April, May. So we're 2/3 through the spring market. If you're thinking about listing your home, I think now is the time to jump in and do that. Get it on the market. And if you need a realtor, need an expert, we've got combined almost 50 years of real estate experience here in Bend, which is absolutely crazy. but we can take care of you here at Dew Corner Realty, powered by ERA. So anyway, give us a call here at the office. We'd love to help out. And until the next time, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.